I want to welcome a special guest, Jay Owen. He's the founder and the CEO of Business Builders. He keeps growing his business for over 20 years, and he made it his mission to help other businesses owners to do the same, to grow their business like he did. Jay is a Business Makes Simple certified coach and a certified story brand guide, and he was also my personal coach and story brand guide. Jay, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Jay, first, can you tell us a little bit more about your business and what are you doing actually?
Yeah, sure. So I always say marketing can be confusing and expensive, and growing a business can be really hard. We help make it clear and effective so that companies can get attention, acquire customers, and ultimately grow their business without being worn out and stressed out and ready to quit. I've been doing this my whole life. So we do everything from coaching to marketing to app development. Those are kind of the three big areas of the business, and love what we do.
Love it. So if you don't mind, I have some questions because you have a lot of experience in the marketing and business. So my first question is, many entrepreneurs who start with high motivation and goals, they find themselves losing motivation after a while. It's happened a lot. It happened to me in the past also. How can we avoid it? Can we?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I definitely empathize with that feeling. I mean, I ended up there myself and still do sometimes, if I'm being completely honest. But the biggest time that it happened, I started my business really young. I was 17 years old when I started.
17.
And then I got married really young as well. I got married at 21. And shortly after I got married, you know, we were expecting a child, and I thought, I don't know if I can make this business work. I don't know if I can make enough money, you know, to live the life that we want to live, because I wasn't making very much money at the time. And, you know, at that time, I actually quit. I didn't really quit. I just kind of put the business on the side burner. It kind of became a hobby instead of a business. I went to work for my uncle in the insurance business, and I worked for him for about 6 months. And I knew I'd married the right woman when one day I came home and I said, babe, I could keep doing this insurance stuff, but I'm probably going to hate it my whole life. I can make a lot of money, but I'm not going to love it. And she said, so quit and do what you love. And so, you know, to answer the question, how do you get through those seasons where you think like, I don't think I have what it takes. I don't think I can do this anymore. I believe that you have to have 4 people around you in order to help you get through those seasons. And here's those 4 people. I'll give them to you real quickly. Number 1, you need somebody to look up to. And so what I mean by that is somebody who's ahead of you, somebody who's doing the things that you want to do. It's kind of an aspirational identity, right? You look at that person, you go, wow, I'd like to be like that person in 10 years. And so you need somebody to look up to. The second is you need somebody to stand beside you. So I always say, especially business leaders, owners, and entrepreneurs need to be in community with other people who are owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs. Because if they're not, then they have that feeling that it's just lonely at the top, or it's lonely as an entrepreneur. And it is, if you allow it to be. So you need somebody to stand beside you. So you need somebody to look up to, somebody to stand beside you, and you need somebody that's looking up to you. So what I mean by that is everybody should be teaching. We learn the most when we teach. And so when we have to learn something to teach somebody else, we can all be teaching somebody regardless of what level we're at. So number 1, somebody to look up to, somebody who's standing beside you, somebody who's looking up to you. And the last one, this is the one that my wife was in that story that I just told a minute ago. You need somebody that believes in you when you don't believe in yourself. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a spouse, but you need somebody who's going to go, hey, no, this is what you're made for. You've got it. You just got to keep pushing. So I believe you have those 4 people in your life, it's going to go a lot easier, and you're going to be able to get through those tough, stressful, kind of scary days of business ownership better than you would otherwise.
Wow, it was a great answer. So each one of us definitely going to need to find these 4 people. Some of us lucky and we already have them. And my next question is, many business succeed a lot when they just start the business, but then the moment they are trying to grow a little bit, something isn't working. They don't succeed to grow and to being profitable at the same time. Do you have any advice how to do it in the right way, or what should we avoid when we are trying to grow our business?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people get stuck with that. I think in our culture, at least here in America, there's an obsession with consistent growth, growing all the time for growth's sake. And as a result, there's a lot of talk about revenue numbers. Everybody's like, oh, I hit $100,000, I hit $1 million, I hit $10 million, whatever it is. And they're always talking about revenue numbers. And I do the same thing. Like, I'm guilty of it too. But the problem with revenue numbers is that top line does not tell the whole story. So, when I hit $1 million in annual revenue as a company, I wasn't making much more. I might have been making a little less than I was when the company was at $250,000 in annual revenue. And so, I think that the big thing that I always tell people there is you got to focus on where you're at and not where somebody else is. So a lot of people can wing it to a certain level. And maybe that's $100,000, maybe it's $1 million. I don't know what it is. But I always say a lot of people can wing it to that point. The problem is you end up so stressed out, and ultimately many times you're not very profitable. So it's like, wow, the company brought in X number of dollars, but how much did you actually get to take home? And if the answer is 2%, that's not good enough, And so you got to figure out ways to do that. For me, what I had to do was find the right systems to put in place to help track all of those metrics. So, back in the day, I would just kind of wing it. I would quote somebody something. And if I was doing the work all myself, there wasn't that much risk. But as you scale, you start hiring people, or maybe you're just hiring contractors, whether you're hiring contractors or full-time team members, employees, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference, but you have to have a better hold of those basic accounting principles. You got to know your numbers, and really you have to know like what systems you have in place to help automate things. So you're not missing things like invoices that need to be sent or bills that are late, or, really understanding how much a project's going to cost. I remember the first time I quoted a project that was over $20,000. For me at the time, it was like, wow, that's so much money. I was like, this is incredible. Like, I just sold a single deal for $20,000. And months later, once the project was actually done and I counted the cost, I realized that I had spent in contractors and things like that $25,000 on the project. So I worked really hard for like 6 months. I was really excited about the $20,000 project. And ultimately, I paid $5,000 to do it. That's insane. You can't grow a business like that. So you have to know your numbers, and you have to have the right systems and tools in place to make that happen. Once you get to about, I'd say 8 or 10 people, one of my favorite books on this subject is a book called Traction by a guy named Gino Wickman. Yep. And it helps you put the right systems in place to scale. It's not probably as good for like a solopreneur or somebody like that. But as you start to grow, it's good to kind of know this stuff ahead of time. I wish I had known it before I actually needed it. I probably learned about it 3 years too late. But that system has been huge for us because I'm naturally not very good with systems and processes and stuff like that. I'm good with people. I'm good with speaking. I'm good with teaching. But I need the right tools to get the business to scale. And so, my first year in business, back when I was saying, I wasn't sure I could make it work. My first year, we did $5,000 in total sales. Now, to be fair, I was only 17, but still. And then, and then I did 15, and then I did 30, and then I did 50. This year, we'll do, millions of dollars. Well, we should hit $3 million in revenue this year. And we'll do that with a very high profit margin. And that really is the goal. And so I couldn't have done that without knowing my numbers and having the right systems and tools in place.
So it's about systems and tools.
Absolutely. And Traction is a great resource for that by Gino Wickman.
Thank you. So I have like another question that really bothers me a lot these days, because it's starting to get harder and harder to promote our product and promote ourselves. Like if I'm a buyer and let's say I want to buy a pen, I can buy it online in so many places, or I can go to a shop or to another shop. What can you do as a business owner to attract the buyer to you, to make the buyer to pay attention to you and not to somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, it's noisier out there than ever. It seems like it should be easier than ever to get attention because we've got all these different tools to get in front of people that we didn't have before, like email and social media and, Google ads and Facebook ads and all this stuff. But in fact, it's actually harder because there's so much noise out there. for me on the agency side, the thing that's been the most beneficial to me is building relationships. It's building relationships, and it's giving things away so that I build trust. So people see me and they go, hey, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. I mean, that's why we're talking today, right? I mean, I led a story brand workshop. I mean, they did pay me to do that, but still, I was leading a story brand workshop. You obviously found it valuable enough to go, hey, you know what? I'd like to have Jay on for an interview to be able to share with my audience. Well, now other people are watching this who otherwise would never see me, right? But right now I'm giving away my time to talk and share and give ideas. And chances are good that over time you do enough things like this, whether it's podcasts or webinars or, even locally, like in your local area, depending on what kind of business you run, showing up at events. So for us, we have a Chamber of Commerce, we have a thing called Rotary, different community events that help different nonprofits and organizations in the area, and you build relationships. You get to know people. And at the end of the day, most business is done by people who know somebody else that they like and trust, and that's who they're going to buy from. And so I see marketing many times, the work that we do, as an ancillary thing to that relationship. In other words, it comes alongside it. I think people look at marketing and they think if it doesn't like produce a direct return, like I run this ad, I acquire this contact, and I close a deal. Sometimes that happens depending on the product, but many businesses are too complicated for that. So I was talking about this with my team this morning, and talking about new clients. I was at a live event last week, all week long, and I got to meet a lot of people when I was there. None of that turned into a closed deal, but I don't expect it to. I'm just initiating a relationship, and then those people are going to follow me, and then they're going to get an email from us, and then they're going to attend one of my live webinars, and they might come to a live event, and then they might get an email or download an ebook or download a checklist, and it's all these things together that ultimately go, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about. I should work with their company. And then they sign up. And so that's how marketing comes alongside all of those natural things. But ultimately, for me, it's about getting yourself out there. Like the question becomes like, where are my customers? And then how can I get in front of them? And basically, I'm at a point where my company runs well enough without me on the day-to-day. So when I have opportunities to be on live events or in person, I'm going to take as many of those as I can. Because I want to share information. As a result of that, I become a subject matter expert. I am a subject matter expert, but I'm seen as that in different communities. And then it only takes one person watching to go, I'd like to know more about that. Or I'd like to have him come teach my team, or I'd like to have him come speak at my event, or whatever it may be. And that's kind of how I see getting through the noise of this world today.
So it sounds like being consistent in making relationships.
Yeah, I mean, consistent effort over time, is really where the power is. Most people give up too soon. And when they give up, somebody else is going to take advantage of that, And I think it depends on the product and service that you're offering too, because obviously it all varies depending on the industry. But certainly with the work that we do, it's all about relationships. And it's about getting to know people and people going, hey, we want to work with them. And then all of our other marketing becomes supporting evidence, if you will, for that relationship.
Got you. So another question is, should we do the marketing ourselves, or should we pay someone to do it, especially for small businesses?
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean, for us, we're in the marketing business, so it makes sense for us to do it ourselves because that's what our team does. But even then, sometimes it's actually hard because it's hard to do your own work for yourself. Sometimes you can't get outside of it enough to see into it. And so we brought in different consultants and coaches sometimes for ourselves, even though this is the work that we do. So, I always tell people, you need to get the fundamentals done in marketing. You need to get them right. And you should hire a professional to do that. Like if you're not a professional, if your job is not a copywriter or a designer and you can afford it, you should get a professional to do it. And in the meantime, maybe you have to do some things on your own. Like, in the early years, I did a lot of stuff like myself because I had to. I didn't have the money to pay somebody else. I don't believe in going in massive debt to try and do some of these things. So, sometimes you got to get a little scrappy and figure it out. But as soon as you're able to afford it, your image, your brand, your messaging, and your marketing should be done by a professional. Look, I know I'm a little biased. It's the work that we do, but legitimately, everybody watching and listening knows that that's true because you see some businesses and you go, oh, that looks that looks professional. Like it looks like they put some time and effort into that. And as a result, it makes sense. It's like when you're at a restaurant, you know, if you go to a restaurant and the two things I like to see at a restaurant to know how well it's taken care of are the kitchen and the bathroom. And if you go in the kitchen or the bathroom of a restaurant, you get a feel for how well the place is managed.
Right.
So if you can glance in that kitchen and it's a total freaking disaster, I'm not sure I want to eat there. Same thing with the bathroom. Frankly, granted, I'm not eating in the bathroom, but if I go in there and that place is a disaster, they don't have the systems and processes in place, and I know they're probably not going to make it in the long run. Versus the places where you walk in, like, man, that kitchen is just operating at a high level. I'll never forget one time my wife and I were in London, and there's a restaurant at the top of the Shard, which is a tall glass building in downtown London. And it's a really cool place. It overlooks the sunset over London. It's beautiful. And when you enter the restaurant, you walk through the kitchen. And that's a testament to kind of showing off how proud they are of what they do. So when you talk about your messaging and your brand, the question is like, do you look like it was put together by a kid down the street, or do you look like it was put together by a professional? And professionals in messaging and brand are going to be able to more clearly communicate your message than you are. And as a result, you're going to be able to get attention and acquire customers. Branding, messaging, and marketing should be revenue generating activities. It should be things that create revenue. In fact, I saw a study recently, just this last week, that companies who invested in a professional brand over a short period of time saw at least a 23% increase in their revenue over that time period. Or for a lot of people, if you increase your revenue by 23%, that's a lot. So it's worth it.
Perfect. So my next question is kind of related to the last one, but many of the small businesses and some new marketer, they need to operate with very low budget, almost no budget. So it's kind of two-part question. One is it even possible to operate with almost no budget? And second, how can they do, if it's possible, how can they do effective marketing with a low budget?
Yes, it's possible. So if I had no money and I wanted to market my business, what I would do is I would start with relationships. And it depends on what kind of business that I'm in, but LinkedIn's a great place for this right now. LinkedIn personal pages allow you to go connect with a lot of people. Now, the mistake people make is they go connect with somebody and then immediately send them a sales message trying to get them to buy something. Right. We've all had that happen to us. And I don't ever buy something from somebody like that. Never. It's not a good strategy, in my opinion. Maybe it's working for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing it. But it's not good for me. Here's what I would do instead. I would go follow everybody that I can find who might be a potential buyer of my product or service. Then I would go and be the best commenter on every post that I see them post, because they're going to post something and I'm going to go, oh, wow, that's incredible. Tell me more about that. Whatever it may be, I'm going to be the best commenter on the whole thing. You know what they're going to do? They're going to go, who is this guy? And they're going to click on my profile and they're going to go to my page. Yeah. And then in LinkedIn, I can see that they clicked on my profile. Now I can follow up with them. And so that's kind of like a guerrilla marketing as far as social media, but everybody's so worried about making their own content. Half the time, all you need to do is go engage with somebody else's content, and that can create more value for you. So if I had no money, that's where I'd start. Then I would get somebody to buy from me. I would create some kind of a relationship to get somebody to buy from me. Now I got some money. Now I'm going to take that money, I'm going to multiply it. So then I'm probably going to invest in some professional marketing or work to get to the point where I have the money for that, get my messaging right, get my website right. Those are kind of the fundamentals. And then I have a foundation to ask for more money, right? And so you just keep building upon that. And I believe in like growing slowly over time. I don't think you have to do it all at once. You know, I have grown every single year for 23 years in a row. 5,000, 15,000, 35,000, 50,000, 75, 100, 150, 250, 300, 500, a million. Wow. You get the idea. Over and over and over and over and over. And it wasn't always by a lot. Like sometimes it was a little bit at a time. But all I did was ask the question, how can I be better than me from yesterday? I'm not worried about my competition. I'm worried about me. So I would use that LinkedIn strategy to go build relationships, create rapport, and then I'd give away value in the early years. I would create videos if that's a good for me. I would write. I would give away content that relates to the product or service so that people go, wow, I'd like to learn more from this person, and then let them connect with me. Or maybe I can reach out to them after I've already engaged with them for several weeks on LinkedIn.
Oh, it was a really great advice, really. My last question is kind of, I think any entrepreneur out there is a little bit worried. Is it even possible to grow your business, really grow your business, and have a good family life, like be in a good relationship with your wife or kids and friends? Is it working together, family and business?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is something I'm really passionate about. A lot of people ask about work-life balance and how do I balance it all? I understand that pull. I've got 5 kids who range in age from 9 to 17 almost at the time of this recording. And I've been married to the same woman for almost 20 years. And the entirety of our marriage, I have run the business. I told you the story earlier about how she believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And look, there have been years, not days, years, where I didn't do a good job with this. And there's even still days when I don't. But at the end of the day, the biggest mistake people make is they're always like, well, once I get through this project, then I'm going to spend time with my kids. Well, guess what? Then another project comes. And I know. But once I get through this project, then I'm going to take my wife on a date. And at the end of the day, especially with the kids, I look at them and I think, man, they're growing up. Like, and for anybody listening or watching that has younger kids, you think like, oh my gosh, they're exhausting. And I get it. I have been there. But gosh, everybody told me this, but now that I'm looking at my, 17-year-old almost right in the face when he's standing up as the same height as me, and I realize like I have 1 summer left with him. 1. Like, and I am not going to squander that time. I'm going to use every ounce that I can. And so when you're building a business, you have to take that into consideration. Like, you can always go make more money, but you don't get more time. And look, I know that there's different seasons of life, and sometimes you're in a crunch where you're like, look, I got to put food on the table here. Like, I got to keep the lights turned on. I got to pay the rent, and so I got to work a little harder. And in those seasons, you just got to communicate that. So go to your spouse, go to your children and say, hey, I'm not going to be around as much the next couple of months. I really have to get these things done because I'm doing my absolute best to care for our family. And I love you and I want to be here for you. And then find, even if it's a small amount of time every week, to be hyper intentional about what's going on. And, so be where your feet are, like if you're there with your kids, be with your kids, get off your phone, turn off your laptop. Like, if you need to work, go to a different room and go work, but don't do it sitting there in front of them. You're not, one of the worst critiques my wife's ever given me was she would say things to me like, I feel like you're here, but you're not really here. And that was true. It's still true sometimes. Like, the curse of entrepreneurship is that you don't get to put it away. Like it always is going on, but sometimes you got to tell it to shut up so that you can focus on what matters most, which is what's in front of you, and it doesn't turn off. That's okay. That's a gift and a curse. And so you got to find a way to work with that. But the last thing I'll say is on this subject, let's say you're out to dinner with your spouse. Okay. But instead of your spouse, I want you to think of it as you're sitting with the most valuable prospect or client that you could ever imagine, whoever that is. Whoever the most valuable person is, you're like, this is the client I've always dreamed of, and I have this half hour or hour to impress this person and make them feel seen, cared for, so that they'll buy from me, or so that they'll have a relationship with me. And some random person calls you on the phone. Are you going to answer that call? Of course not. You're not going to get up from the phone, but how many of us do that with our spouses?
Right.
And so we say things like, my priorities are, God, my wife, my children, whatever. But the reality is our life says that my priority is work, and then other things. And so I think it's not about balance so much as it is intentionality in the season. Deciding, hey, this hour today is blocked off to focus just on my children. I'm going to turn my phone off. I'm going to put it in a drawer. I'm going to close my laptop. I'm going to turn off the internet to the house if I have to. And I'm going to focus on these people in front of me. Because You don't get any more time. You can always go find more money. Old people can go make money. Old people don't get time back.
So it's not about the quantity, how many hours you spend with your wife or boyfriend or girlfriend. It's about the quality. Like when you sit with your wife or when you talk with your kids, you are there and not like in your phone or something else. And
yeah. And I also think as it relates to that is it's about communicating to them what that expectation is. So, if your wife expects you or your spouse expects you to be there, 6 hours a day, and you just can't do that realistically with the work that you have right now, you need to figure out a plan and you need to talk about that. I would say misplaced expectations are the biggest failure of most relationships, whether it's spouses or clients or anything else. If I think this and you think that, and those two things are too far apart, we got a problem, right? And so sometimes just talking through it and going, hey, I'm trying to figure this out. Will you help me? Will make most people go, gosh, yeah, how can I help you? And I think that communication is really, really valuable.
You said this advice about like, imagine you're meeting an important customers. And I just realized like now in this interview, my phone is in another room, is not in here. But how many times I'm meeting friends and I'm like with my phone all the time, let's see, did I got an email? And
yeah.
It's a great
and look,
advice.
and I do it too. Like, I am still addicted to my email. I'm still addicted to my phone, and I'm just trying to be better, and I think you can't demand perfection, but you can demand progress. You can get better than you were yesterday. And you could be, and step number one, it's like any addiction. Step number one is awareness. It's going, hey, I have a problem. The problem is I cannot sit in a moment of any quietness without pulling my phone out of my pocket and checking for my latest update. I do that. Like, you got to admit there's a problem first before you can fix it.
Jay, it was really great. I appreciate your time so much. And to anyone who watched this interview, I highly recommend you to contact Jay to see if he can help your business. He helped mine a lot. So Jay, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anybody who wants to learn more about what I do, you can find me online at jayowenlive.com. That's JAYOWEN live.com. All my social media links and resources are on there. I also have a 52-week email series where I'll send you one email per week, just one email, that gives you a business growth idea every single week. So if you want to sign up for that, you can find that there.
So we're going to post to anyone who watched this, we're going to post you the link to Jay Owen website. And if you didn't get how to write it, you can just click the link. Highly recommended, really. He's a great marketer with great vision. Jay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.